Let's get started with some basic information. This is a starter for the web page we're going to develop. When you begin a page, one of the first things you want to make sure you do is specify the document type. That's going to show at the top of your page. And you notice that I have an open tag for the HTML web page. Here's the closing tag for the HTML page. Everything that's going to be available for that web page is going to fall between these two tags. What's the difference between the opening tag and the closing tag? It looks exactly the same, except there's a / before the HTML. The next thing that every basic page is going to have in it is going to be a head. The head is going to be at the top of the page. You will also notice that the tags look very similar in the way they open and close, in that you need to have that / in front of head in the tag. The next tag that you're going to see is going to be the body tag. You'll see that it also opens and closes. Everything in the head is going to fall between the opening and closing for the head. Everything in the body will fall between the opening for the body and the closing for the body. Items found in the head will help the web page be seen on the internet. It will also give available information about how the page will be displayed. It will also provide metadata for search engines to use. But the information showing in the head will not be immediately visible to the user who is viewing the page. The only thing that's going to show at all will be the title, and I'm going to show you how that will be shown. It will not actually be shown within that page, but in the tab. What's going to show on the page? The items that fall within the body. The items that fall within the body will be those things that the user will be able to see, that will display actually within the page in the web browser. Those are the things that will be visible. So let's talk about the head a bit more now. So what are some of the things you might show in a head? Well, one thing you're going to show in a head is going to probably be some comments, and one of the first things we worked with is to learn how to work with some comments. And let's put some of these in here. So some things that you might want to put in comments might be information that you need to explain what the page is being used for. It also may be helpful for you in the future, or someone else working on that page, to know how things were set up for that page, or why they were set up that way. So it's you put things in the comments that will help the programmer in the future. You may also want to put some information about when the page was created and by who. Other information that's going to show in the head might be metadata that will be available, as I said, to be used by the search engine or by the internet. This may also be some keywords that will be used. That's another type of metadata that might be displayed. One other thing that's going to show in the head is going to be the title for the page. In this case, let me add some more white space. You'll notice that I've got a lot of white space showing. This is the title. This title will not be displayed on the page itself. In a few minutes I'll show you where that will be displayed. You notice I used the term white space. If you can work well with a compact spacing on your page, that's fine. You don't need to have a lot of white space. I'm taking some white space out now because the page works just fine like this. If that's the way you want to work, that's fine. However, sometimes, especially when you first get started working with a web page, white space helps you find things better. I personally like to have a little white space and break things out a little bit so I can quickly find what I'm looking for, and I like to kind of break apart the different elements. So I might put a little white space between the elements, and so like for example right here, so I've got, here's the body and here's the head, so I can quickly find where they are. I might want to put some space also there. Okay. Now when we work together on there, you may make some comment about the line. If you're using white space, you might want to be careful when you make line references. So for example, this HTML opening tag is on line 3 here. If we add more white space, that could change and force it down to line 4. So be careful if you are using white space and you're adding content to your page, how you make line references, for example, in comments. Okay, now we're working in Notepad++, so we're going to take and save as, and we're going to change this to an HTML file. I'm going to scroll down and find the file type that I need, and I'm going to name this just starting, and I'm going to save that. Okay. Now the next thing I want to do is display this so we can take a look and see how that looks. Okay, you notice there's nothing showing on the page. That title did not show on the page. It did, however, show up here in the tab. The title in the head does not show on the page, but it does show up in the tab. I know some of this is basic, but we might cover something you did miss when you were reading the chapter. Okay, we're back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about getting started with working with web pages. Right now, let's talk a little bit about the HTML tag that we use at the beginning of our document. One of the things we want to be sure is that if we do specify the language we're going to use in the HTML tag, that we do not duplicate that tag. You can actually specify the language within the tag itself, so I'm going to do that. Okay, the tag stays up at the beginning of the document. Only thing that comes ahead of it is going to be the document type. Now I'm going to hit save to save what we've just done, and we're going to view that to see how it may change how it looks. Right now we're working with some content that's in there, and let's see if we can find a little bit about what we're going to see on the page just by looking at this code. So we do have some comments in here, and with working in Notepad++, we're going to see that the comments are in green. We notice how that you open a comment and you close a comment. Everything that falls between there will not affect your code in any way. We'll talk about a little bit more about how to use comments later, but right now we're just talking about how you use them to explain what is on the page and why the page is there. Okay, in this case we do have some style sheets attached, and in this case we do have, you notice here's the opening head tag, here's the closing head tag. Everything in the head is going to fall between the opening and closing for the head. The opening head tag does not have a /. The closing head tag does. Okay, so what falls underneath the head is going to be the body. Everything that shows and is visible on the page is going to fall in the body. So all of this should be visible to the user within the body of the web page. Okay, what do we see? We've got a header that's got going to have a logo showing. You have beneath that you have an article, and within that you've got some headings. This H1 tag is being used, and then it also notice the article opening. Everything within the article is going to fall between the opening and the closing tags. Then beneath the article you have the footer. Here's the opening for the footer and the closing for the footer. Again, same principle of using a forward slash to close that in the closing tag to close out the footer. And everything within the footer is going to fall between those two tags. That principle is used throughout defining the code on the page. So when you troubleshoot, look for things like that. Did you leave out a forward slash in the closing? Did you leave off one of the chevrons because you have to open with the one chevron to open it and one to close it, and then you want to make sure that both of those are in there, and you want to make sure in the closing you've got that forward slash. Okay, let's take a look at our page and see what we think we're going to see when we view it. So let's take and look and see, do we think we're going to see the title on the page when we look at it? So here's the title, Starter Web Page. It should not be displaying on the page, but it should show in the tab for the web page. Let's go down and look and see, where do we think we're going to see the content that's going to be displayed on the page after the body tag begins. So let's look through here. In here, the first thing we see, we've got a header. We also see that there is an image showing. So we probably are going to see an image. That image is going to be logo 1. Okay, we're going to see an image there. Let's go down, we look in the article. There's H1 or headings 1. We should see the text, this is a starter page. So we should see that text show on the page. Okay, after the article we see a footer. Down in the footer we should see some information. It's called starter page, and then we're going to see an address, and then we're going to see a telephone number. Alright, so let's see what we found. Okay, so this is what we're going to see on our page, and we do have a logo image. We have the heading. This is a starter page. We have the footer information showing, and the title is showing up in the tab. Next, let's troubleshoot a page and see if we can fix the errors on that page.